Joel Embiid continues to defy logic, do magical things on the basketball floor, and straight up dominate. He is Philadelphia's king, and last year he finished second in MVP voting behind the Joker. This year, I actually think he's been better. So if you agree with me that this has been Joel Embiid's best year of his career, hit that thumbs up icon, like the video, and let's break down the latest Sixers news and rumors. You're watching Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Sr. Greatly appreciate all of you for making the show a part of your day. And we start off today's show before getting into the latest on James Harden and whether or not he wants to come to Philadelphia with Joel Embiid. My man has just been flat out unstoppable for almost 2 months now. Let's take a look at what he's been able to do over the last 18 games. Really, he's doing things that we've never seen a player do before, given his height, given his size, given his all-around skill set. Last 18 games, he's averaging over 34 points per game. 16 of those 18 games, he's scored at least 30 points. He's put the Sixers team on his shoulders, going 13-5 during that stretch. He's got footwork like Hakeem, spin moves like Hakeem, able to do things in the low block like Hakeem Olajuwan, but he's overpowering cats like Shaquille O'Neal was doing in the early 2000s when he was straight up bodying Dikembe Mutombo during the 2001 NBA Finals. I'm sorry I had to do it. Sixers going down in that finals run did cause me to go in tears, but hey, I'm just keeping it a buck as I always do. Here are the numbers overall with what Embiid has been able to put up over those last 18 games where really he solidified himself as the most dominant player in the NBA. Kevin Durant is out right now, and because of that, I think Embiid has shown that he's the most skilled, most dominant, most all-around player in the NBA that we currently see. 34.2 points per game as we just broke down. He's averaging a double-double night in, night out with 10.5 rebounds. His field goal and three-point percentages really are filthy. 54.5 from the floor, 39% from beyond the arc. Yeah, we're talking about a guy who's like 7'2", 280-plus pounds, who sometimes looks like he's pushing 300 pounds. But he's in the best shape of his career, and that has led to him having, in my opinion, the best year of his career. Now, I had to do my due diligence, do my job, and look back at some per 36 numbers with what Hakeem Olajuwan was able to do in his age 27 season compared to what Embiid is doing in his age 27 season. Again, these are the per 36 numbers. Hakeem, 23 points per game, 13 rebounds, 50% from the floor, 2 steals per night, and 4.3 blocks per evening. Really, really great numbers for Hakeem the Dream. Embiid, on the other hand, a little bit of a different player, but his game does resemble Hakeem to a certain degree because of some of those post moves. Of course, Embiid is a better outside shooter because then it was frowned upon for big men to let it fly from beyond the arc, but the points per game up at almost 32 per 36 minutes. The rebounds down a shade, field goal percentage down just a tick, steals per game down a little bit as well, and the blocks aren't there either. That was much more of a defensive-oriented era. But for Embiid to even be mentioned in the same conversation as Hakeem and Shaquille O'Neal goes to show you just how good Embiid has been. And really what we're seeing this year, what we saw last year, and really the glimpses of what we've seen from Embiid throughout his illustrious career, it's one-of-one type shit, or one-of-one type-ish. Embiid's blend of style, power, moves, offensive arsenal, mixing it up down low, one-legged fadeaways, one-legged jumpers, and basically everything that he's able to do on the floor is just a combination of skills that is so truly rare. So while this guy has been injured a lot, man, you really have to give him his dues for overcoming some of those mental pitfalls, overcoming some of those injury struggles to put forward a truly special spectacle of the season and give us basketball porn to watch night in and night out. So I need to know, I'm going to ask you this because I kind of let my feelings be known on it. I think Embiid right now is the best player in the NBA. Do you agree with me? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Sound off and get your votes in the comment section right now. Now, as I've talked about here on Philadelphia 76ers now, I've taken great pride in growing this channel to the point where it's the fastest growing 76ers channel on YouTube, and a big reason we've been able to grow consistent coverage that's entertaining, informative, quick, and a little bit different. We like to involve the audience. So I'd greatly appreciate it if you subscribe for the best Sixers news and rumors on YouTube by hitting that red subscribe button down below, or go to youtube.com/76erstv. Also want to give a shout out to our sportsbook partner BetUS for powering today's show. Love gambling on the NFL playoffs. Love these NBA prop bets as well. Speaking of NBA prop bets, you can get a really good deal thanks to our sportsbook partner, BetUS. Head to chatsports.com/bet. Enter the promo code CHAT125 for a 125% deposit bonus. You put in $100, you get $125 back if you use that link in that promo code. NBA MVP odds. Giannis now overtaking Steph Curry at plus 275. Embiid, about a month ago, was like plus 4,000 to win NBA MVP. If I stand corrected, you let me know, but I believe that's the case. Now, plus 350 ahead of the Joker. You want to bet on Embiid to take home this hardware? Chatsports.com/bet. Enter that promo code at chat125. That deal applies for anybody, no matter where you live. To the juiciest topic of today's show, and we continue to talk about these James Harden rumors here on the channel. Does James Harden want to be in Philadelphia? This report coming from Jake Fischer that he's not really happy with the situation in Brooklyn, and he came out with this report prior to the Nets losing to the Los Angeles Lakers, and James Harden let his frustrations be known yet again. Let's get to that report from Jake Fischer of Bleacher Report. He also wrote a book on the Philadelphia 76ers recently. He said this: Harden remains invested in competing for the title in Brooklyn this season, according to multiple sources with knowledge of the situation. But Harden has recently informed several confidants, including former teammates and coaches, of his interest in exploring other opportunities outside of Brooklyn this summer, league sources told Bleacher Report. By the way, did not sign a long-term contract extension this past summer with Brooklyn, 1 year remaining on his deal. More reporting. According to multiple sources, Harden has not enjoyed living in Brooklyn compared to his days as a Central Houston magnate. First time I've been hearing that word. Interesting. Outside of the change in climate, the chasm between state taxes in New York versus Texas is quite obvious as well. Further reporting just pointed to Harden not really being happy with the situation in Brooklyn. He's had to shoulder a lot of the load back-to-back years. Kevin Durant has gone out with injuries, and according to this same reporting, not happy with Kyrie Irving's lack of availability because of his vaccination status. But what's interesting is that if he wants to get out of Brooklyn and he wants to come to a place like Philadelphia and he misses the state of Texas, Harden, I got news for you. Philly ain't Texas either. I grew up in the Philadelphia area. I live in Dallas, Texas now, and obviously I got to be able to admit this, the freedom in the great state of Texas has been wonderful. The lack of state taxes. There are no state taxes down here. It certainly indicates on my paycheck. And there's just a different culture and a different atmosphere in Texas as compared to Philadelphia and Brooklyn. I'd say Brooklyn and Philly, they're not similar cities, but they do have a lot of similarities because they're both big cities in the Northeast. And the culture in the Northeast is totally different than it is down south in the Midwest/Southwest like it is here in Texas. So Harden, if you're looking for a change of pace, I'm not sure you're going to get that going from Brooklyn down I-95 to Philadelphia. Maybe your basketball situation will change. The living situation, I don't know. I mean, I hate New York personally. It's way too overwhelming, and I like Philadelphia because it's a smaller city, and you can actually go from place to place, hop in an Uber, and travel across the entire city without having to go from one subway to another. So maybe that's what he's talking about when he doesn't like Brooklyn. Let's get back to what Jake Fischer had to say on Harden. There has been no trade request up to this point, and that Sixers deal is highly unlikely to materialize prior to the deadline, yet Harden's apparent openness to joining Joel Embiid and reuniting with Philadelphia president Daryl Morey will loom over the Sixers' trade conversations for Simmons these next 3 weeks heading into that February 10th NBA trade deadline. So I do believe that James Harden is looking at greener pastures, and he wants to basically be the focal point of a team like he was in Houston, and he might see a better opportunity to do that in a very passionate city like Philadelphia alongside a player like Joel Embiid. On the other side of that, I think Daryl Morey is trying to increase the leverage as much as possible for a potential Ben Simmons trade, and he's really trying to draw up the interest in any way he can to see what he can potentially get in exchange for Ben Simmons prior to that February 10th NBA trade deadline. He went on 97.5 The Fanatic and said a bunch of noteworthy things about Simmons and potentially not trading him prior to the deadline and hanging on to him until this offseason. He said a couple of things over time that have been very, very similar. Then there's all that movement from Clutch Sports as well. Daryl Morey is doing his due diligence right now as a basketball executive and trying to drive up the price as much as possible for Ben Simmons to try to get an all-star back. Now, many people are also saying this is impossible. Why would the Brooklyn Nets take Ben Simmons back? There's no reason, there's no way why they would trade away James Harden to a place like Philadelphia in their division. They'd be competing with them in the Eastern Conference and bring back the malcontent in Ben Simmons, who hasn't played in, 9-10 months up to this point. I do see a scenario in which this can happen if James Harden just approaches KD and Kyrie. He's like, yeah, I want out. It ain't working here. And if he forces a trade with the Brooklyn Nets, kind of like with what he did with Houston, Brooklyn might be forced to play that hand in favor of James Harden and trade him away. And if they're looking at trading him away, they want to get an all-star player back who still is a special talent, who still can run the point, can play off-ball 4 or 5. Why not get back Ben Simmons? And their contracts are very similar. Now, to make this work, there would have to be a sign and trade that takes place, kind of like that Josh Richardson and Jimmy Butler trade a couple of years ago. We're only getting started on this front. These rumors going to continue to surface. And I already know there are so many people in the comment section saying, this entire channel has been built on Ben Simmons trade rumors. What are you guys doing? What are you going to do when Ben Simmons doesn't get traded? What are you going to talk about? I mean, it's the biggest storyline in the NBA. So why wouldn't we continue to pump out coverage? We're going to keep doing what we do, and we're going to keep interacting with the audience. And if you want to hate, that's all good too. What's the likelihood Harden is in Philly next year? My final question for you before we get on out of here. Type H for high for it's highly likely. Type U for unlikely. Get your votes in, subscribe, and thanks for watching today's show, even if you are a hater.